Hey everyone, it's Dominic the Primetime Treasure Hunter. Welcome back to another video, a special 2:30 in the morning edition. That's right. I am burning the midnight oil here. It's just the first time I actually had a chance today to get to this. I really like doing this type of video in the beginning of every month. It's technically July 2nd, and I want to go over with you the top 10 most expensive and most profitable items that sold in my eBay store. If you enjoy this type of video, you can just go to my playlist section. You'll see I have a whole bunch of these under the what sold section. So with that said, we're going to start off at number 10 and work our way back up to number 1, which will be the most expensive and most profitable item that's sold in my eBay store for June 2019. So let's start here at number 10. This is the Liqueur Galliano Italian Soldier. It's a liquor decanter, 19 inches tall. I sourced it for $3 and sold it for $47.50. For those of you who are brand new and unfamiliar, a decanter is a structure that holds liquor, typically in a decorative way that you could, display somewhere, either, somewhere typically on a bar, maybe on a mantle or something like that. And the spout is usually hidden somewhere on top typically, although not always. You have to look around. They have kind of creative places where they put it. But in this instance, it's hidden underneath this feather that is the same color of the Italian flag. And you've got to be really careful when you are sourcing this item when you see it out at a sale, because what could happen is you could pick it up like this, and then when you turn it over to look at the bottom, if you're not careful, that feather piece is going to come loose and it's going to shatter all over the floor if it lands on a hard surface. So you have to be careful, and it typically gets lost. And so having that on there adds a lot of value to the item. A lot of times when you see them, it will just show the plastic spout underneath, which I'll show you in just a few moments. But I won't even pick them up if it doesn't have the feather on top. So that's something that's real important to have. Another thing that's important to look for with these is the hat typically has some kind of crack or chip on it. Or the actual feather piece itself will have cracks and chips on it. So you have to look out for that as well. If it has that, I will not pick it up. Another thing you want to look for is the sword. This is a plastic sword. They come in different colors. Usually some kind of offshoot of a gold color like that, and there's typically a rope there that ties it around. So if it doesn't have that, I would pass on it as well, because that's something really important for the collector. If we look to the back of it, on the bottom, you could see there's a label. Now you want some part of that label to be there. You could see here's a close-up of it. Let me click on that so you could see a little bit better. Now you could see part of it is peeled off, but that's okay. As long as some of it is there and some of it is showing. You could see there that it was made in Italy. The very bottom of it is going to have a maker's mark, and it should say Coronelli, because that is the maker of the ceramic there. So if we go over here again, if it doesn't have the label on it at all, I will pass on it. If it's a complete full label, that will increase the value. Another thing that will increase the value on this item, and I will still purchase it if it doesn't have it on there, but if you do have it, it will increase the value, is a tax stamp. Now, a tax stamp for an item like this, it is basically a vertical strip of paper, runs up and down almost the entire length of the back of the decanter, and that was important, was needed when it was shipped over from Italy to the United States. So it's still valuable without it, but with it will increase the value. I've seen these go up to like $60, $70 depending on completeness and also condition. If you go over here, you will see the actual spout right there. It's right there, right up top, that white part. So actually just pour from there, and there you can see there's the top. I just put it to the side. You want to be careful with these items when you ship them out. You want to make sure that you remove the liquor, pour any remaining liquor out. It is not legal to ship alcohol on eBay. So you got to be very, very careful with that. If you get caught doing that, you could really, really find yourself in a lot of trouble. It is legal to ship decanters or things that held liquor. So the key is there just cannot be any actual liquor in it. So that's an important thing to keep in mind there, so you don't get yourself in trouble. Now, one little aside that some of you may find interesting if you've been following me for a while. This item has sentimental value to me, and it does for many other people who are Italian American. And the reason for me is that I think I told you that I saw this in my household growing up on the mantle and by the bar. And the reason is because my grandfather, who was born in Italy and raised in Italy, he used to dress up as this soldier when he was in Italy. He used to wear this uniform and everything. And I actually have a picture of it right here. I could show you. There you go, right there. There is the feather on the top, and that's the basis right there for for that feather that I was telling you covers the spout. And this is the whole outfit right there, and and you could see actually here's that like little sword that they'd hold on to the side there, or maybe like that might be like a sheath, and so or it could be just, I'm not sure, but that is part of the actual outfit and stuff. So he is my paternal grandfather, the first ever Dominic, and came over to New York when he was very young, like 19, 20 years old, and worked as a garment presser and lived in Queens, New York. And his one of his sons, my father, also Dominic, and my son Dominic as well. So we've got 4 Dominics. It all started with him. The original OG Dominic. I wanted to bring him to YouTube for the first time, so it's a very proud moment for me to do that. The first time I've actually ever shown one of my family members on here, so I'm curious if anyone thinks there's any resemblance. I don't know what anyone thinks, but there we go. Grandfather Primetime right there. Thank you very much, Grandfather, for starting this whole journey over here in America. It's been amazing, and look how far things have come. He'd be blown away if he saw that his grandson had a YouTube channel. He wouldn't even believe it. So, all right. So we're going to move back to the list here. Let's go to number 9. This is a Funko Pop of Phoebe Buffay from Friends. You could see there up top that it says it's vaulted. That's a technical term in Funko Pop land that means that it is retired, so they don't make it anymore. Now, it's not super old. They made it several years ago. All 6 of the main Friends characters were produced. The most expensive and most profitable one to get would be Rachel, the Jennifer Aniston character. And that one, if you find that brand new, could sell for up to $140. So that's definitely the best one to find. But I found this one. Some of you may remember recently at a garage sale. Didn't look like there was much from the outside, so that's a little bit of a lesson. You always got to go in and check it out. Lady who was selling it was an older lady. You wouldn't think she'd have a Funko Pop sitting around, but you just never know. She did. Was the last day of her sale, was at the very end of the sale or towards the end, and so she was doing 50% off. She only had $2 on it originally, but purchased it for a buck, and I took a best offer on it for $50. So that's about where it should be in terms of price range for this, given that it does have some damage on it. I'll show you right here. You could see the top corner there has a little bit of damage there. Also over here, you could see there's some peeling back, a crease of that corner. And most significantly, on the back here, you could see that there's some crushing. So that may be one reason that people left it there. They might have thought, well, it's too damaged, no one's going to purchase it. But I deal a lot in Funko Pops. In fact, here's just one example. I have a whole big tote of them right over here, and I typically buy them like that. In fact, it's almost how I always purchase them, is in these big giant bulk purchases. And then by purchasing some of the lower cost ones, that's how you find some of the gems like this. It's really quite unusual to find a gem piece like that sitting around at a garage sale, and that you could purchase for a reasonable price like that. I typically will pay, my standard rate is $2 per Funko Pop to resell online. If you have an actual land store, you can pay like $3 for them. The rate you're going to offer will also obviously depend on exactly what someone's bringing in. If they're bringing in very rare variants and exclusives, then of course you could pay up more for them, but that's for another day. This one will sell for, 60, $70 if it doesn't have the condition issues with it. So, friends, if you ever see a friend's Funko Pop, pick it up, because people will still buy it with the damaged box because, again, it's rare, it's hard to find, and a lot of people, they don't even care about the box. There's some people who buy it who are not into it as like a super collector. They just want to take the friend's character out and they want to display it somewhere in their room or, with their friend's collection. So they don't want to pay that top dollar for the item because they don't really care about the box. They just want to buy the figure. So, by having items like this on the market, even with a damaged box, as long as the figure's okay, there's plenty of people out there that will still purchase it. So don't make that mistake when you're out there sourcing. Pick it up if it's a rare exclusive item like that, or a retired item that's popular and in high demand, even if there's box damage. All right, let's move up to this one here. This will be number 7. This is Action Comics, which is a Superman title, and there are 44 of them here. You could see, pay attention, I've shown this before, how I lay them out in a nice, organized, even symmetrical way. That first picture is really designed to grab the buyer's attention, and then when we go in, then I lay them out systematically so they could see them in groups of 4, until we get to the end, and maybe there'll be like a spare 1 or 2 and I'll take a picture of that. This comes from a comic book series called New 52. And what New 52 is, it was basically a relaunching several years ago of a lot of the comic book characters in the DC universe. You could see here's the DC insignia right there on the top left. And what they were doing is each week they were releasing a new issue for the comic book. So there would be 52 issues, and it was a good marketing strategy. It was pretty popular. It got people to buy a comic book a week, and they'd sometimes have like crossover events and stuff where you'd have to buy something from another series and things like that. So it was a creative thing to do. And so, ideally what you want to have, and this is why I want to show you this, ideally you want to have all 52 books. And there were annuals that came out as well. So an annual is a book that comes out once a year, so I have annual number 3 for this as well. And there's also what you can see there. It's called a one-shot. A one-shot is just a single-shot comic book that comes out. It's just meant to be encapsulated in that one issue. It was not like an ongoing running series or anything like that. So it's just one particular issue. I think it was this one right here, which it says Future's End. And if you were to actually zoom up on the number 1, right in that 1 right there, let me see if I could, I can't get it in there, but right in the number 1 there, right underneath it would say one shot. But the point is of showing you this, these all did sell for $60. I sourced them for 15 cents a piece, or 10 to 15 cents a piece, through a big comic book lot that I purchased. There were about 8 long boxes of comic books there. And even though all 52 were not there were 44 total, they still sold. So a collector will still purchase that to get the bulk of the 52, and then they'll fill in the gap at their local comic book shop or somewhere else. Maybe they'll hunt for them online, that sort of thing. So, that's one of the points with these last 2 items, is that things will still sell even if they're not 100% perfect or 100% complete. So, $60 is $60. That was a great sale for that item. All right, we're going to move on to the next one. This is number 4. I actually just put this up today in my Facebook group, the Facebook Reselling Resource Center. If you're not a member of that, you definitely need to join. Go down below. It is in the description section. You'll see a link there on the YouTube channel. It's what we call a bolo. If you're not familiar with that term, be on the lookout. Item I do one every day in the Facebook group, and this is the one that I did today, which is this Your Physique magazine. These are old bodybuilder magazines. They came from the 1950s. All of these are from 1950 to 1952. You could see really, really cool covers on there, and these are very, very collectible, very sought after. I actually wound up putting these on auction. Now, I was actually hoping to get more for these. You could see there were 12 bids. They sold for $71.13. Not bad, though, considering that I purchased the entire box of these and many others. Like, this is just one small sample of what I wound up getting. I got this big box of them. The link to the video is actually in my Facebook group if you want to actually see me source it. The person who I bought this from was at a garage sale. She had bought a house that had a barn in the back, and the barn had this box with all these old books in it, or old magazines. And so she had no attachment to it, and she was very willing to just sell it, get rid of it. She had a sticker price of $20 on it. I wound up getting them for $10, and I have others for sale in my eBay store right now. I have another lot up for sale for $275, and I have another lot up for sale for $85. And then I found some hidden treats in the box as well that I did not know were there, that is coming up in just a moment that you will get to see. So if you ever find old vintage bodybuilding magazines, try to pick them up if you can, because they resell very, very well online and also at trade shows. Okay, now it's funny because I showed this recently on my YouTube channel when I was doing an interview with somebody, and we were going over items, and I showed these HO train switches, and some people in the comment section, didn't really think that these were things that were going to sell or were that popular. And some people are saying, well, N trains are very popular, and N trains are popular. Those are different, models of trains depending on the size. But HO is also popular, especially if you could find things for them that are in lots like this. I wound up sourcing these at an estate sale. The person was a big-time train collector. This comes from one of my haul videos. You can see right there on the top corner. It's not on that one, it doesn't, but right here you can see it says HO Gauge. This is a lot of them. Wound up selling for $74.99. So I actually think I took a best offer of $65 on this. So still overall, I mean, I sourced this for pennies a piece. I mean, I had almost nothing into these. So and very light, easy to ship. These are not heavy things at all. So if you ever see any kind of train pieces, especially on lots like this that are still factory sealed, kind of have a little bit of a vintage look. You could see some of them have Toys R Us stamps on them. Toys R Us isn't even around anymore, so things like that, sought after, and people like them. So let's move on to the next one. We are halfway done, so we're going to go over to the next one. So this is number 5 now. So now these are some of the hidden treats I was telling you about. They were surprise items that were in this box of bodybuilding magazines. I did not know these two things were in there. When I saw these, I got very excited, because what these are called fanzines, or sometimes people call them fanzines. Basically, what these were from the 1950s, even 60s and 70s. What fans were doing, who are typically science fiction fans, fantasy fans, is they were putting together their own bulletins to basically share their interest in science fiction, and write little short stories and write little articles and things. And they would try to build up like a little subscription base, and they would send it out to fans of theirs across the country. So people get very excited to get these things in the mail. So I could show you, like, there's the back. They just ship it there right on the back. There'd be like a little area where you put a stamp on it, and there'd typically be these kind of cool black and white drawings on there. I'll show you an example of what it would look like inside, like this here. Let's see. This is the back of another one, but this is this is an example of some of the drawings I'm talking about. I mean, we're not talking like real professional drawings. I mean, they're pretty amateur, but there'd be like they typically each include like a table of contents and stuff like this, and you could see like the different stories that they would have. And let me see if I have some other good pictures in here I could show. Here's a good example. So, there'd be like these little stories, and they're all, made of like, cheap kind of newspaper, kind of quality paper, and have like, little drawings intermixed with the stories like this. And so, I just highlighted a few of those. Here's another example. So if you ever see these, now you'll know what you're looking for. Even if they are damaged, pick them up. They are hard to find, and there's a really strong collector base out there for them. People who are trying to complete their own collections of these things or recapture a part of their childhood. You could see there were 19 bids for this. I put it up for auction. Again, $76 for something that I didn't even know was in the box of bodybuilding magazines when I purchased it. You can't beat that. That's just gravy. And there was actually another one. Now it was like severely damaged. It was a different one, had a different title, only sold for like $10 or so, but still, it's all kind of adds up. All right, number 4. This one, number 4, was actually sourced by Mrs. Primetime, my wife, when we were out at an estate sale. You may remember that video from about a month or 2 ago. This is called a Ching ring. And it's not that it's a Ching ring in and of itself that makes it popular. So this is an instrument with all these little clappers on the side of it, and it's kind of like a tambourine in a way, and you just kind of, tap it back and forth, and it makes like a, kind of like a chingy kind of tambourine-y kind of sound. And but the key here is the name Ralph Kester. That is the absolute key. I'm trying to see here if I could zoom in where you could see that it says Ralph Kester is made in USA. There it is, right on the bottom there. Designed by Ralph Kester. That is crucial. So if you ever find this and it says Ralph Kester on it, pick it up. We got it for $3 at the estate sale and sold it for $80. So, and this is also a nice light item, not expensive to ship at all, so great return on investment. Old vintage musical instruments sell very, very well. All right, now this one here, I just did a whole video on it. You could go back a few videos and see what the end result of this wound up being with regards to a return that I had on this item, and how, to stand up for yourself if someone ships the item back damaged. This is one that I obtained through metal detecting. So the only investment I had into this was time. It is a rare 1930s New York ceiling light, and it still has some of the original hand-painted florals on it. It's a beautiful item. There's nothing wrong with it. I think the person just had buyer's remorse when they got it. I wound up selling it for $80, and when the person sent it back to me, this middle piece there wound up getting snapped off, and so I wound up refunding half of it. That's that's the least that I could refund in this situation, and so I wound up still making, when you factor shipping and stuff into it, I wound up getting like $20 out of it still, and I still got to keep the item. So, but if I didn't have that whole situation, which I go about in depth, I'm not going to repeat it all here. If I didn't have to go through all that, this would have been something that would have been an $80 sale. So just goes to show you, though, if you have metal detecting as a hobby, you sometimes can find things that you can actually sell on eBay. That was a goal of mine. I always wanted to do that, and I feel like I did accomplish that goal, finding something, finding a treasure, putting it up on eBay, and selling it, even though the end, kind of worked out, kind of didn't, but it's all good. I have the item now, a little bit damaged, still made a little bit of money on it, proved a little point to myself, and now I could at least still display it. So next 2 items. These are the last 2. This is a bronze metal sculpture of Jesus at the Last Supper. Sold for $170 within like a day of putting it up. I actually don't have this on video. This is the day after I came back from vacation. I went out to one estate sale and just had the itch to go out, so I didn't put the camera on or anything like that. And I'm looking and I see this item there, And I was looking up comps, and there's a lot of comps for the Jesus at the Last Supper statues like this that don't go for that much. But the key was looking at the back of it right here and seeing that we had these two, like almost like they look like the letter A right on the bottom here. Let's see if I get right there. This here where I'm moving the mouse. And the ones that didn't sell for much had like 4 of those on there. So that's one of the things that I noticed when I was looking at the comps. And I think that's why people left it there. I wound up getting it for $10, and again had a $170 sale price on it. So that was a great item. Really nice piece. I have shown this before, but I do very well with bigger religious statues. Always check into those, especially Virgin Mary. She sells very, very well. So that brings us to number 1. I have talked about this before, including recently, but this is my best sell of the month. Was this big lot of Godzilla comic books with the movie coming out recently, Godzilla King of the Monsters. I had held on to these for over a year. I knew the movie was coming out, and so just held on to them because I felt that with this having the same title, Godzilla King of the Monsters, that really would be perfect. And plus, I wanted to read some of them again, so I had fun reading some of them, looking some of them over with my son. These come from the 1970s. It's really great classic series. There's 24 of them. I have like $3.60 invested into them at 15 cents a piece. And that's sold for the full price of $265. Now, keep in mind, I did a whole video about this recently. It's the one that's called Why Do You Have to Be So Difficult? So check out that video if you want to see how the negotiations went for this item. But I had people lowballing me all over the place on this. And typically it was other comic dealers who were trying to get this for half price, like $100, $110, so they could go online and resell it for $265. And as I show in that video, the comps clearly show that what I sold it for is the price it should sell for. So stick with your data, stick with your comps, be patient. It sometimes could take time with items like this to get the maximal value out of it, but if you're patient, it will happen over time, as long as what you have is actually comparable to the comps. What I mean by that is if the comps say it's in near mint condition and that's what it's selling for, and you have ones with lots of damage, well, that's a different situation. But as long as the comps are pretty much identical or close to identical, you should be able to get something very close to that, if you hang tight. Now, one other thing I want to mention is that you see all these items that sold for a lot of money, but I don't want to give up the impression that this is what every day of my sales are like, that I'm making these $50 sales, $265 sales. That's not the case. I sell plenty of items for $9.99, $15.99, $14.99. So there's bread and butter items like that, it's sell all the time. And then there's days where you just don't get a sale. So it happens to me, it happens to a lot of people, it happens to almost everybody. So just keep that in mind if you are struggling, especially in June, because this really is a month where, June's over, but it was a tough month for a lot of people. Things slowed down, and that might continue into July for a little bit. This is a situation where buyers typically, have a bit of an advantage because we're not running right up against the holidays. So June, July, then that'll start to kind of wear off a bit, and we'll head into August, and people start, being more motivated to purchase things and give you closer to the price that you're asking, unless you're waiting to wait a little. So expect, right now, June, July, you probably get more low balls than usual, but that's the reason why for that. So that's really it for the top 10. The only other thing I want to tell you about, just a few programming notes. Make sure that you come to the live show that I'm going to have Wednesday night. So that's July 3rd. That's going to be 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to have a hour-long interview with Joe Rensing. We're going to cover wholesaling and pallet and bulk purchases. A lot of people have asked me for a video on that topic, and so I have someone who's perfect for that. He does that all the time. He's from the Family Flips YouTube channel and Instagram account. I already have the video up with links. Well, when I say the video up, I already have the preview up, so you could go check that out. His links are there, Joe, and you'll see the interview on Wednesday night. So come by for that. And also on Friday night, I am going to be a guest on Chris the Thrift Shop Hustler's channel. That's going to be at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Chris's channel, the Thrift Shop Hustler. So come by, check that out, jump by in the chat, say hi. Look forward to seeing you all there. So with that, it's about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I've got to at least get a little bit of sleep before tomorrow. So hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like button, make sure you subscribe, pass this on to a friend, get some other people in here, increase the subscriber count so we can make these videos more relevant in search for people. And also, like I said, come to the Facebook group, Facebook Reselling Resource Center, and follow me on Instagram at @prime_time_treasure. See you back at the next video, everyone. Take care.